Folks, welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast Podcast with Wayne and Patrick, coming to you in 2024. It's been some time since I've connected here. If you want, go online, go find, Wayne's latest episode with his special guest talking Bears, everything that's coming up for them. So that's available on YouTube, anywhere that we're linked on audio as well. Today, we're going to bring you our first round matchups for the NFL. The playoffs are right here, right around the corner for wildcard weekend. We're going to go through all the matchups coming up for this weekend slate, leave it at that. And, as always, just give you our best. We're sponsored here by the Sharps app. Go check it out if you are making bets on any of the, gambling sites around sports. Build a social media profile through it, link up with other people making parlays, bets, see what folks are strategizing, and just learn more about that space there. So go download the Sharps app now. Also, Titan Nutrition, we've been with them for a while. We got a promo code that you can check out, get any sort of supplements for working out. They've got a lot of different options, flavors, so you can go check them out where they're at as well. Without further ado, we're going to kick this one off with the Saturday matchups. Miami Dolphins going on the road to take on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, how about this matchup? Dolphins, they still have this rap, right, of just not playing up to their competition. And, it's going to be also really cold at Arrowhead. I think I see temperatures for this Saturday around 10 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. And I think I saw a stat out there about the Dolphins, the past 10 games where the temperature, game time temp is under 40, just 40 degrees. They're 0-10. So, that Miami weather definitely plays a factor. Tyreek Hill, he might slow down a little bit. I know he has played at Arrowhead before and such, but, I think all in all, this game, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. Chiefs, they're 4-point favorites right now. I'm going to pick the over. I think they'll cover here. Dolphins defense, I just don't think they stack up that well against the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs offense hasn't been as spectacular as years past, but it looks like they're going to be missing their two edge rushers. I think that's going to be instrumental. I think the key for to go against Patrick Mahomes is obviously getting some sort of pass rush. And then obviously for them, oftentimes if their wide receivers can catch the ball, then that's basically going to be halfway to their success there. So I got the Chiefs winning here. Like I mentioned before, Dolphins, it just seems like they don't play up to their competition, or, when they're going against great competition, such as the Chiefs here, they just don't win those games, especially on the road in the playoffs. So I think they build off from their successes this year, but in the end, I'm going to go with the Chiefs and their experience. I think Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, I think all that's just going to be good enough for them to get a W here. Maybe we see a little bit Taylor, I don't know, but I think, the Chiefs prevail here.
Yeah, like you're saying with that Miami defense, to lose Bradley Chubb after losing Jalen Phillips earlier in the year. They're also down Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker at linebacker. We're not sure if Xavier Howard's going to play at corner or Javon Allen at safety. This team is kind of in shambles at this point, especially on defense. It was a top 10 unit for the year overall in terms of yards per game, but you just can't go in with that many guys, I think, out. I know they signed Bruce Irvin and Justin Houston, I believe, today. But, is that enough to get them, ingrained into, their defensive scheming and kind of get ready for Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and everything that, he usually brings out in the playoffs? It's a very, very tall ask. Maybe Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are back on offense as well. If they're out, again, you're just going in very shorthanded when you really can't be. And even if everyone was healthy, this would still be a very tough matchup for Miami. Kansas City, it hasn't been their best year. I feel like the offensive woes have been pretty noticeable. Kind of the inconsistencies week to week. It seems like they do make a lot of, mental mistakes, mental errors. There's been a lot of drop passes throughout the year that have led to big losses for Kansas City. But in a lot of ways, they kind of remind me of the New England Patriots of old. There were many, many Patriots teams that we saw walking into the playoffs where we're like, yeah, they're just, middle seeds here for the AFC. They took care of the AFC East, but in the same way, like, it's the Patriots. And I just feel like Patrick Mahomes, you get the playoffs going, you get him in that kind of environment and he's going to thrive. And this isn't my favorite Chiefs team, that they've had over the years, but that defense has been stout all year. Top two team on that end. We know what they can bring offensively if Patrick Mahomes just starts to dial it in a bit. But at home, you want to throw the weather on top of that for sure. Like that's just another element to it, which it does matter because Miami's obviously much more comfortable in the sun. So yeah, man, KC, and I don't think this one's going to be a very tight game. I see a touchdown or more, for the Chiefs.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think the key, if there is some sort of upset to be pulled off, is like you mentioned, Irvin or Houston. If they pull off some sort of, I don't know, like Joe Flacco equivalent, right? Just off the couch, veteran, coming into the situation, just be like, oh yeah, I know how to play this football game, right? And get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Also, I think if they're able to run the ball here, they do have obviously a really good running attack there. If they're able to get the ball rolling there, that's less time for Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce to make any type of plays out there on the offensive side. So, I think that could be, if they play more of a ball control type of offense, I think that could be in favor for the Dolphins. But, a lot of ifs, ands, and buts, a lot of injuries, like we talked about on the Dolphins defense. So, all in all, I think both of us, we feel pretty good about the Chiefs and their chances of winning here over the Dolphins.
For sure. You mentioned Joe Flacco, so we'll just move into the second, game of the Saturday slate there. We've got the Cleveland Browns going on the road to take on the Houston Texans.
Joe Flacco. I mean, how about this? Like, I think sometimes I forget, like, oh yeah, he also played for that divisional rival, the Baltimore Ravens too, and was kind of that link with won the Super Bowl and everything, and then was the quarterback before Lamar Jackson, because it feels like with Lamar Jackson, like it's just been kind of a fairy tale, if you will, with the MVP and everything else he's done. But the Texans coming in with a healthy CJ Stroud. Yes, they still don't have Tank Dell, but it looks like they're going to have Robert Woods, possibly Noah Brown too, going along with Nico Collins. So they're getting healthier, coming off of that great victory that they had with the Colts there, kind of a win in your in game there. So, coming in with some momentum. Texans have won 3 of their last four, including that Colts game there. The Browns coming in hot though. Joe Flacco, we had to lead the charge with this also top ranked defense that they have. Also the Browns, they've beaten the spread too the last 4 weeks, if you don't include week 18, which I think that's kind of a toss up there. Just overall though, I think the Browns and kind of how they match up, I think the key will be, if the Texans, Dalton Schultz, he's going to be the key factor there. I think I saw somewhere that the Browns, they've allowed like a 99.9 quarterback rating against tight ends. That's always where Dalton Schultz can be that X factor for the team here. Also, if Singletary can, effectively run the ball, maybe he doesn't break out like a 30-yard touchdown run or whatever, but is able to like move the ball, like average like 4 or 5 yards a carry. I think that could be helpful, kind of take the load off of Stroud. But you know what? This Browns team, even though they're not going to be playing without both their tackles there, which that's the only concern that I have, I think, against Will Anderson Jr. and Jonathan Grenard, who combined have like 19 and a half sacks. I do believe that the Browns, with Flacco, with that defense, the defense will be able to hold Stroud a little bit. I think stopping any type of big plays, I think, would be key for the Browns. And this is a epic Browns defense that they have. Like if they had a Joe Flacco or had some stability of the quarterback, earlier in the season, like this is a team that won 11 games, right? Like, could you imagine if earlier in the season they had, Joe Flacco of some sort there, just having that stability? Like this team could have, probably like 13 or 14 wins there. So, for me, I really like this Browns defense. I think they'll win they'll basically win them this game. I think Flacco will make enough plays there, keep the ball moving. And yeah, I got the Browns. It's like it's a 2.5 point. They're 2.5 point favorites against the Texans. I'm going to say they cover this. It is Jim Schwartz, experienced defensive coordinator, against a young rookie quarterback, albeit having a historical season. I just think the Browns with this defense, they'll take care of business here, and Flacco will make enough plays. With Amari Cooper, who got like 265 yards, I think, the last time that these two teams played. So maybe he doesn't get that, but I think they'll be able to get enough yards passing there.
Yeah, I actually thought you were going to go with Houston just because, they've been kind of your darlings from the start of the year. Man, what a way to end it. Beating Indy. That was a great game to watch. Just to see, Stroud's kind of progression from the start of the year to, all the way through. It's like, man, we were talking MVPs. He definitely has a case this year, and he's only coming in for his first time and just looks so seasoned and ready to go. I'm with you though. I mean, I feel like top D in the game, tied for fifth in takeaways throughout the year. I think they're going to be kind of a matchup nightmare for Stroud. I think it's going to be a lot upon him. I think in his first ever playoff game, I think there's a lot of pressure as it is for him. Also, kind of being at home, I think there's an expectation there that they'll have to hold serve there and kind of take care of business on their ground. But Cleveland, I just feel like very deep, very experienced. I feel like that defense has just been humming all year, and it's seemingly been the quarterback play that's been the most inconsistent factor of the team. Going from Deshaun Watson to PJ Walker to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's just like it's been kind of checkered all over the place for the Browns. They finally found that stabilizing force in Joe Flacco. It's good for him that he didn't have to play a full season. I think just him coming in to be that that closer. It's like he's so fresh, he's hot, so it's like just ride that hot hand. And before they ended up kind of resting all starters last week, they had won their last four coming into the playoffs. So they're, like you're saying, riding in hot. Not that Houston isn't playing well, but yeah, man, I just think you got a lot of veterans on the Brown side, guys that are hungry, and that team it's a mean team. That is like they pretty much play bully ball throughout the games. I mean, they stack up really well against teams like the Ravens. When they go head to head with them, I just feel like they're that type of playoff hard nosed football team that is going to get it done. So I'm going to go with you there. I agree. I think this one's going to be a close one, but I think they're going to win by 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of again, we'll see. Like this whole CJ Stroud, like he's been incredible. Like I mentioned before, I would like in his truest form of most valuable player. Like to me, CJ Stroud by a long shot. Just given rookie head coach, defensive coordinator, or is a defensive minded coach as well. Not much talent on the offensive side of the ball. Like I think everybody picked them. I think they were like the second lowest ranked team. I think maybe to the Panthers or something like that in terms of what the record was going to be. I think they had the lowest odds of like making the playoffs or something. So honestly, remarkable season, remarkable what they've been able to do. Like who would have thought Nico Collins would be like an 1,000-yard plus wide receiver? Like all these things that are just incredible here for CJ Stroud. They just happen to go against one of the best defenses in all the NFL, and a hot quarterback too. So for me, it's much more about that. Really like what the Texans have built on. I'll be scared what they are able to put together for this off season and heading into next season. And it's hard to like remind ourselves, hey, this team won the division, right? Like you felt like the Jaguars were owners of the division, but they kind of just stumbled, and now the Texans took over. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. This is going to be a home game, in the playoffs for the Texans here. So definitely don't want to write them off. But feeling pretty good, I think, for this Browns team with that defense. It's just going to be tenacious for them. Although, Tunsil, if he can be that staple that he is, that could definitely slow things down. But it's just going to be a hard, I think, matchup here against this Browns passing defense, which is one of the best in football there. So, yeah.
Agreed. In our next one, we have the Buffalo Bills hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, in terms of like a win standpoint or who I think is going to win, it's like there's no TJ Watt. There's no TJ Watt, which I know both of us like we've talked about as he's probably like we think we both identified him as like the defensive player of the year here. Granted, they still have a lot of talent on their defense, but having that TJ Watt, like that's such a blow against this really hot Bills team. So it's also in Buffalo. Bills are 7-2 at home this season. They've been moving the ball around, apart from just zeroing in on Stephon Diggs. I do think that if Josh Allen hadn't maybe thrown like was it 18, 19 interceptions, he probably would be in conversation for MVP a little bit more so of, but he think he has 45 total touchdowns, including his rushing, right? Like pretty incredible season that Josh Allen has had and has really kind of, pushed along that offense. And, now, hey, they're passing to Khalil Shakir a little bit more, passing to Dalton Kincaid, using James Cooks more. So really diversifying their offense. And then their defense definitely has had suffered a lot of injuries, I think, this season. Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, Jordan Phillips, kind of big staples there, but they have enough firepower on defense. Leonard Floyd definitely stepped up from the pass rushing standpoint. So, they got Rasul Douglas as well. So I see a lot of good positives happening for the Bills. I think the Bills are actually like 10-point favorites here. So I don't know, like the Steelers team and Mike Tomlin, he always seems to motivate these players really well, even like with their backs against the wall here. So it's hard for me to say, but I might just pick the Bills covering just for the sake of it. 10 points is a lot, especially against the Steelers team, but it's on the road in Buffalo. So I'm going to say the Bills, they cover, they go the over here. The Steelers offense they just been a little bit anemic and everything this season. And I think the Bills will be able to move the ball, especially without the TJ Watt there.
Yeah, the Watt injury is huge. I mean, it's almost everything, pressure wise for Pittsburgh. I just don't want to be disrespectful because the last thing I want to do is, pump up the Bills and kind of talk down on who the Steelers are. Then, Tomlin just shows up with this amazing game plan and, happens to, either take one or just, make it very, very scary. I still think he's going to get his guys ready to play. He's a very, professional coach with a very professional, organization and just kind of, ethic, I think, from their side. So, Mason Rudolph has stepped up to be a competent starter for them, which is super nice. I don't know if that's actually something that's sustainable or, in the works for, them moving forward, depending on what happens in this playoff run of his. But, in general, that's been one of the biggest Achilles heels, of that team. And it just feels like now they've got a guy who can, get the ball downfield a bit. Obviously mixing it up with Najee and, Jalen Warren too, but, saw a pretty good ball. He threw to Deontay Johnson, for a big touchdown score last week. I think he's just bringing some new, energy and confidence into that team, which is desperately needed at the quarterback position. But like you're saying with Buffalo, they do it on both sides of the ball. I know Josh Allen's been wildly, kind of inconsistent, looking at numbers and, turnovers and things like that this year. And, one thing I have to say about it is that I think his aggressiveness is what makes him great. I think the fact that he doesn't second guess himself or doesn't get too caught up in throwing that big interception, and kind of, coming back and being a little bit more timid about it next run, he just continues to go. He just continues to go and go and go and go. And, it leads to big, breakaway runs for him. It leads to big passes in very tight spots. I mean, I feel like he was kind of throwing darts toward the end of that game last week. And, that was a huge victory in Miami just to kind of seal it up and get him in this 2 slot. But in a lot of ways, it just showed, who Josh Allen is, where he's going, with his career right now. I feel like this is the run in this playoffs that's going to make, or break him in a lot of ways. I mean, I think this is where he's going to make his name if I had to put my money down. And I feel really good about the Bills. I really do. I mean, they've won their last five. They've got a great defense. I'm hoping that Russell Douglas is healthy. We have to make sure that Gabe Davis is healthy on the offensive end of it. But I think this Bills team's learned a lot this year. I mean, they at times had played down to their competition a bit, which is something to worry about, especially when they go up against a depleted Steelers team. But this last stretch of things where they've taken down some huge opponents. I mean, Chiefs, Cowboys. You could probably name some others in that list there over these last several weeks or so. But to get yourself in the two slot after being kind of like on the brink of not even making the playoffs, I mean that's remarkable, and it's that kind of momentum that a team needs to have going into a playoff run to win it all.
Honestly, yeah. Like if I am any AFC team and I see the Bills coming up there, I would be a little scared. Like even like I think we can go through like all the AFC essentially. Maybe we'll say that for another episode. But like we've talked about how all the teams they don't seem that great. The AFC doesn't seem that great. There's a lot of flaws. We've talked about the Chiefs before. I mean the Ravens are I think they're the one team, right? It's like okay maybe them, but the rest, like this is a tough Bills team. Josh Allen, when he's playing at his best, he's unstoppable. And yeah, he's been divvying it up the ball a bit more, and he's playing like I see the fire in his eye, and I'm pumped up for the Bills. So and I think I kind of said that the Bills might take a little bit of a they might regress a little bit this year, but come playoff time and what they've been showing of late, like I would be scared to face them against in the playoffs, right? So this definitely is a tough, resilient Bills team, and they have a lot to I think show for that. And yeah, even with all the injuries on their defense, they still are able to bring it, and have good coaches too to help make sure that they're positioning their players well. So yeah, I would be scared for this if I am going against this Bills team, just because Josh Allen and a solid defense and the playmakers they have on offense, like they can definitely make a run here. So they're getting hot, and yeah, it's I think it'll be interesting to see how they progress. But yeah, at least I think they take this game here against the Steelers.
For sure. I like where this offense is coming into this year versus others with an established running back, having James Cook back there who's actually, kind of asserted himself not only in the running game but also in the passing game. He's looking very multi-dimensional, somebody they can actually trust. And then kind of having Dalton Kincaid step up at tight end with Dawson Knox coming back. It just provides so much more flexibility options for that offense. They look a lot more confident this year than maybe in others. So yeah, just all things considered, this is definitely Josh's time to shine. I mean, I feel like last week, even that big game, they were showing side by side clips of him versus John Elway, and kind of like the bootlegs he used to take, or wild throws he used to kind of make as well, maybe a little bit like a Brett Favre. But yeah, man, I love his moxie, and I definitely think this is a W here.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be scary. I think what the Bills do, like definitely don't want to steal too much thunder in terms of I guess predictions for them. But yeah, I would be scared if I were to be in the AFC, kind of going against them there. No Joe Burrow and Bengals or anything like that. So I think that's like one favorite that we both kind of had going into this season. So yeah, that definitely is I think a scary Bills team in the playoffs.
For sure. In our next one, we've got the Green Bay Packers going on the road to take on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, man, this is gonna be great. Talking about like a battle of the number one and number two passing touchdown quarterbacks here, in Dak Prescott, who was number one, and Jordan Love, who was number two for the Packers. The Cowboys beat the Lions by one at home, I think several weeks back. If you want to kind of compare a little bit to NFC North teams there. So I think maybe that is something to look into a little bit. Also, this is at home. This is at Jerry's World, where the Cowboys are undefeated this season. They just play their best brand of football at home. Cowboys defense too is, they have a lot of difference makers there. I think that's going to be the key thing. I talked about Jordan Love and just a tremendous season that he's had. I definitely doubted him a little bit there, especially with the kind of the lack of weapons that I think I saw. But he was able to utilize very young wide receiver core. I think all the wide receivers that are like either rookies or year two, with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, who were drafted last year. So, but for me, I think the Cowboys defense, that's going to be the difference maker here. You got Gilmore, you got Bland at the cornerback positions to kind of slow down those talented young wide receivers there. Micah Parsons too, being able to create pressure. I think that'll be instrumental here. I think the keys for the Packers though is, can Aaron Jones be effective? I think that's what's going to be necessary for them to have some success. Also, is Christian Watson going to be available? I think he's kind of questionable from everything I've seen and read there, because he can definitely blow off the top. Like, doesn't matter if it is Gilmore or Deron Bland back there. Christian Watson can run past them, and at 6'5", like, he is a weapon. So I think those are kind of factors to look for if I am a Packers fan there. Also, very excited to see Jair Alexander versus CeeDee Lamb in the playoffs. Like, that could be a matchup to watch as well. Looks like Jair Alexander, looks like he did practice, so it looks like he probably will be available there. So all that being said, I got to go Jerry World, Cowboys. I feel like they just have experience. They got the secondary to match up with the wide receivers and also kind of just stall the passing game a little bit for the Packers. I think they'll be able to stop the run, stop Aaron Jones enough. Maybe create a turnover too as well with Bland and Gilmore there. Like I mentioned before, maybe Parsons is able to get some pressure on there. I'm just kind of factoring all that. And then, Dak Prescott, I think he can play at that MVP level again in Dallas specifically. It's kind of banking over that. Young, talented Packers team exceeded my expectations. I think I might have picked them last, so definitely want to give some props there. But in this game, gotta pick Dallas Cowboys winning here. I think the spread is 7.5 in favor of the Cowboys. I'm gonna say the Packers actually cover here. I think that they can go within that 7.5. But yeah, I got the Cowboys winning this game. Cowboys winning this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree definitely on this game being a lot closer than maybe what analysts think. What an accomplishment from the Green Bay Packers this year to make the playoffs, year after losing Aaron Rodgers, bring in, the quarterback waiting under the wings in Jordan Love. What a season he had. I mean, I feel like, there was that huge victory he had early on in the year over the Saints, that huge comeback run that he had, that I felt like, at least for me, showed me that he's got a lot of grit and he's very capable of, playing some big football when it matters. There was that huge lull, I think, more or less in the first half of the season where he had a lot of struggles and showed that he's, still learning on the job and he's still trying to ease his way and get comfortable there. But to just finish off the year and kind of, get this team, winning football games, having big stat lines, showing the confidence, showing the fact that he's, been worth, the wait and worth that first round pick. Even to Aaron Rodgers' displeasure there. It's just crazy to see that, how they just kind of hand the baton from one Hall of Fame quarterback to another, and now it's in the hands of Jordan Love to kind of take it and run with it. He just looks very capable. He looks very capable of leading a team. It sucks when you think about it from the Bears' perspective and everything that we go through on a year-to-year basis, thinking about what it is to have a franchise quarterback or something like that. But man, I mean, this to me, exceeded expectations for this team already, just to make sure that they're on the right path, that they didn't make the wrong decision there by choosing him to lead the team. And they do have that huge crop of, young wide receivers like you were talking about. Jaden Reed looks like a Swiss Army knife. I mean, he's very fun to watch on the ground, in the air. Maybe they do get Watson back, which would be a huge boost for them. I think, Luke Musgrave may also be back. I think he was on the fence last week if he didn't play. I'm not sure, but Tucker Kraft has been pretty good at tight end for them as well. So it's like they've just got this crop of young guys on offense. They've got a defense that's on the rise as well. I mean, placement wise, the team didn't finish up, in the top half of many, statistical categories on offense or defense, but I think they're a work in progress and they're, picking up confidence at the right time. Dallas, we know what they are. We've seen what they've done, throughout the year. The differential, I believe, was nearing 200 points against opponents, especially when they got to Dallas. It was, just kind of laying the smackdown on teams. But we do know one thing about the Cowboys in that, there's always going to be that game. There's going to be a game where they slip up and, they drop not to say an easy one, but we kind of, let our guard down a little bit and get kind of high on the Cowboys, and they come crashing back down to earth and stuff. So, when I think about predictions, when I think about this team, they have everything in place they need to really make a strong push here coming out of the NFC. They have basically all the talent that they probably, have to have on both sides of the ball to really get the job done. But it's just that it's getting the job done, having the confidence, and getting over that hump. I do think being at home, I think last year we're in a similar position of being the host. I think they don't drop this one this time around. I think they do get that first round victory that they've been looking for some years now, and I think it's a game that will at least provide some confidence for Dak where he needs it. He needs to get a big victory here. But as far as covering the spread, I mean 7.5 to me still seems a little bit too high. I think Green Bay will come in and give them a very competitive game. So whether it's a touchdown or less, I'm just going to go on the under there. But I do see the Cowboys, going over for the game itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Cowboys 7.5 there. So yeah, I think you and I are in agreement. I think with the Packers being able to kind of cover that, but yeah, I think it's just giving props to like Matt LaFleur and the coaching staff there. Like, I think we've mentioned before, this is the youngest team in the NFL, and everybody thought this was a kind of a rebuilding year. Jordan Love first year, and it's like who would have predicted? I think Vegas basically had him as the favorite to lead the NFL in interceptions, right? So, but then he's second. He's second in the league in touchdowns, more so of. And I don't know where he ranked in terms of interceptions, but I know he definitely wasn't, number one there. So, yeah, great. I think great job. I think this really just goes to show like what does good coaching do, especially good offensive coaches, is they can make a good a young quarterback look great. Like this kind of truly is what it is. Hint Bears fans, like this is kind of what it looks like for a quarterback who has learned under different, who learned under sat under Aaron Rodgers and kind of saw how he went about his business, how he studied film, how he broke things down. Like that's stuff that's just really invaluable, and it's a recipe for success for the Packers. It seems like you're just letting a quarterback sit there, no matter how talented they are, just let them digest the information, and that really seems to work for them. So, awesome that they're able to do that. Wish we had something as methodical and significant as that to make an impact on the quarterback. But yeah, I would definitely. I mean, that's like something I thought about recently is Matt LaFleur really ought to have more props, I think, for Coach of the Year, just of what he was able to do. I mean, I still think D'Amico Ryans, like, he deserves it flat out, but Matt LaFleur did a great job, I think, with this this young, talented, though, Packers team here.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I was watching the game last week and I was just thinking to myself, like, they did pan over to LaFleur, and I was like, this is the first year where everything hasn't been put in place for him. And then when you have Aaron Rodgers, it's kind of it's hard to kind of dictate how much talent the coach truly has when you have a quarterback of that kind of ilk as it is. Coming over from Tennessee prior, it was like, did he really deserve this job? Like, this is kind of seemingly a little bit over his head from where he's at in the NFL, in the the pecking order of maybe candidates that should get hired. And it took a while, I think, for a lot of people to look at him and say, like, yeah, he deserves to be there, or yeah, we'll give him some credit for some of these, terrific Aaron Rodgers performances, or the fact that the Packers were making the playoffs in given years. But like you're saying, with Love kind of coming in year one, and LaFleur having nobody else to kind of fall back on but himself. I mean, he really proved that he can get this team kind of rallied together and coordinated quickly. And yeah, again, the fact that they're in it, to me, is remarkable. I mean, I had him probably ending up in last place too at the start of this year, just based on the huge transition that I thought it was going to, going to be. And it's just, again, it's demoralizing as a Bears fan to look over, yet again at Green Bay and just see them back in it already. And it's like, damn, what are we missing? So, anyways, yeah, totally agree on that point.
Yeah, we're missing good coaching. That's one for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, an offensive coordinator that knows what he's doing. Like that's yeah, in a nutshell. But um, yeah, no, it definitely just goes to show the differences of like what a winning organization looks like, how they're able to go about their business. I remember there was a lot of flack that obviously they got for the Packers got for drafting Jordan Love, and similar thing too with Aaron Rodgers. Like there was always that thing. It's like, oh, why are they doing that? Well, guess what? It works. Like it works. While the Carolina Panthers give a haul to the Bears to draft number one overall pick, right? Yeah, the Packers, they're able to just nab a quarterback like Jordan Love, and then have him sit for a couple of years there under a Hall of Fame quarterback who did the same thing, sat behind a Hall of Fame quarterback for several years. So, if it works, why kill the formula? No matter how much flack that they got. So, yeah, I kind of admire that they're able to just do what they want to do, and they just win. And I think that's something that's commendable that I kind of envy a little bit for sure. So, but yeah, enough Packer talk. That's too much love for the Packers. I feel like. Who do we got next?
Next up, we've got the Los Angeles Rams traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions.
This is definitely going to be a fun one. Like, I love the storylines, right, of Goff and Stafford. The teams that traded or switched the quarterbacks there, and then the Rams won the Super Bowl with Stafford. So that definitely kind of went in their favor there. That being said, hey, the Lions look pretty good with Jared Goff and the team that they've been able to build kind of around Jared Goff for sure. So. Rams, they've won 7 of their last games, one of the hottest teams in all of football here. Montgomery and Gibbs, I think that'll be a key thing for the Lions and their success. The Rams, I think they're like middle of the pack in terms of the run defense, so that definitely favors the Lions. If they can get Montgomery and Gibbs just going, that really takes the pressure off of Jared Goff, and Aaron Donald and that pressure that they have in the on the defensive line there. So the Rams have a great passing attack though, and that'll be key thing I think here to watch. Lions have not been good against the pass this year, just have not. And the Rams with Puka having that historical rookie season, and then also Cooper Kupp as well, who's still a very capable wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers. Obviously when healthy here. I think that'll be key. If Hutchinson, if he is able to, create some pressure against Stafford, who I think he's in the bottom of the league in terms of getting sacked, just because he's able to get rid of the ball pretty quickly, make smart decisions with the ball, do the pre-snap reads, kind of all the things that Justin Fields sucks at. Like all those things, I think, kind of just make Stafford good and well off here. So I think all that being said, I'm looking at the line here and everything. It's like Lions, they're at home. They're favored by 3 points. I think I picked the favorites for the past couple games, or the previous games so far. I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think the Rams pull it off. Like I mentioned before, this is one of the hottest teams in football. They got a lot of rhythm going. They got Cooper Kupp back. I think that they'll be able to stop the run a little bit or slow down the run a little bit and just make off, the passer, kind of like what the Bears have done, and why they match it pretty well is just because the Bears have a really good run defense there. So I think the Rams, they got some smart coaches there. with playoff experience, Super Bowl experience there. So yeah, I'm gonna go pick the Rams here. It'll be a close one. I'll just maybe pick the money line here, but yeah, I got Rams beating the Lions. Sorry, Lions fans. I know it's been like 30 years, but you know what? I just don't think it was the best matchup for the Lions here. So yeah, picking the Rams, beating the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, who knows Jared Goff, better than Sean McVay? I mean, to think about kind of having the full breakdown, the full analysis of what this guy is, what he's most likely to do, what's going to happen when he faces, certain schemes or pressure. Sean McVay knows that guy like the back of his hand. For me, with Sam Laporta possibly being out in this one, I mean that's a huge blow to the Lions' passing game. If I am the Rams, I'm stacking the box a little bit, trying to prevent that run game from being established and putting all the pressure on Jared Goff. I mean, luckily for him, he's still got Amon-Ra St. Brown on the outside, but in a lot of ways, to me, this experience that the Rams are going to bring in, it is going to matter in Detroit's, seemingly first playoff game in a very long time. They're hosting. They're coming off an amazing year. Um, and it's no no takeaway from what the Lions are, on paper and throughout the year and kind of coming into this one. It's just I think, like you're saying, the Rams red hot. I also saw that they've won 7 of their last 8. No surprise. I mean, they've been on an absolute tear. They're definitely getting healthier and kind of building that momentum. But another X factor here is just Matt Stafford in the playoffs in Detroit. I mean, coming back to play against the franchise that obviously he was the man at for a very long time with Megatron, and obviously went to LA, won the title. Kind of feels like a different guy altogether, but I mean he's going to be motivated to go into his old home and kind of show his fan base who he still is, and what he's capable of. And yeah, man, I don't know, Detroit, I love them as a team. I think if everything was good with them just health wise, I'd feel a lot better about this game. Like if I knew Sam Laporta was 100%, I'd be feeling really good. Detroit also had a little bit of stumbles down the stretch. I mean, Goff looking a little bit up, a little bit down. If he was, kind of peaking toward the end of the year, I'd have felt a lot better about it as well. Man, this one's tough for me just because I do like, Detroit an awful lot. I like their story. I like what they've, been building over there. But I'm with you too. Going into this one, I have it on paper. I've got the Rams upsetting Detroit, in Detroit. And I was curious what the over/under is for the game in total, because I think if it's 60 or under, I would take the over.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on the total point total, but yeah, I just know that the Lions are the favorites by 3 points here. I can check it 1 second as I sign in or log into my account here, but it looks like the over under, it looks like it's 51.5 actually. So yeah, and yeah, to your
Yeah.
point, like this is definitely going to be probably pass heavy game, with Goff there too, and then also Stafford, especially Stafford, and those two weapons there against a Lions pass defense that just hasn't been the best this season. So, but yeah, I mean, this definitely could be maybe hitting that over for 51.5 for sure. I definitely see this like both teams scoring 20 plus, maybe close to 30 as well.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see this one going over. Some of the best offenses in the game, both these teams, and defenses ranked, in the bottom half of the league. So yeah, with all things considered, I think if you're placing bets, definitely go over for the game in total. And yeah, with Wayne, I have the Rams winning as well. But yeah, we can move on to our next one. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles going into Tampa to take on the Bucks.
So man, talk about like two teams that kind of just like are rumbling in a little bit, right? You got the Eagles, who have lost 5 of their last 6 games, and man, like I think coming into this season, we both were like, this team can make a run for it, but there's just been a lot of more doubts, I think, of late. Hurts has not played well. I think a lot of people were picking him as like the MVP. Maybe the first half of the season, and just as good of a season he's had in the first half, he just had pretty bad like last 6 games here. So, AJ Brown, he's a little banged up too. Keep an eye out on his injury report there too. Like that'll be big and huge if he's missing in action. The Bucks though, like they shut out the Panthers, but they only scored 9 points against the Panthers. Like, so again, they're not coming in like guns blazing here. They definitely have had their struggles. They do have a lot of weapons there still. I mean, Mike Evans, he's been his normal 1,000 yards, 5+ touchdowns, etc. There. Chris Godwin, same thing. So they do have the weapons there on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, was one of the top run defenses in football, which I think that bodes well, especially against this run heavy Eagles team, and a solid offensive line for the Eagles as well. But I think the key thing that's for the Eagles too, along with Jalen Hurts' struggles, is their pass defense just has been terrible. And that can really bode well, I think, for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So I'm going to take the Bucks here. This is in Tampa. The Bucks are underdogs here by 3 points. I think my key factor here was, this Eagles team. They lost to the Giants and the Cardinals recently. Like, I don't know. That's pretty bad. Again, very talented team. I don't get what exactly is happening with them, but they're just not playing to that level that they're very much capable of. So something with the coaching, something in the water. I don't know. Inflation's finally getting up to them. I don't know exactly what's happening, but yeah, this team just doesn't have it. And I think when you're going into the playoffs, you definitely want to have that it factor, a little bit of moxie. I think they kind of lost that here. And yeah, going against this Bucks, I think this Bucks team actually matches up really well with them. For all the points I just mentioned, poor pass defense. Well, guess what? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they can definitely get some yardage over there. Baker Mayfield had like a career year basically. And then, yeah, the Bucks have a really good run defense. I think that bodes well against the offense for the Eagles. So all in all, I think it's kind of, not the best matchup. And then also, away for the Eagles. And then also, just the Eagles just have not been playing that well. So all in all, like, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to pick the Bucks here, who are the underdogs winning this game.
Yeah. I mean, talent alone would just tell you, like, the Eagles, this is a slam dunk, like, no problem. Just looking at that roster, what they did last year, what we thought of them. I mean, even from a cultural standpoint, I've always, at least, seeing the rise of Jalen Hurts and everything they were, able to do from last year, it's like, I never thought, maybe the culture of that team could be, problematic, or there's some, could be something in the clubhouse we don't really know about. But, just looking at where they're kind of coming from, moving into this first game, losing 4 or 5, looking at the injuries from Hurts, they're talking about, his middle finger, maybe not being able to grip the ball right, make throws. I mean, that's huge. And, to not have, possibly AJ Brown, I think I've heard that he's slated to play, but he's going to be banged up. Devontae Smith, missed last week's game and, was banged up in the one prior. Not sure about DeAndre Swift or, even Darius Slay on defense. So it's kind of like, man, there are a lot of things just negatively trending for a team. And I think when a team starts to skid in this fashion, it really doesn't matter what statistics you're looking at, what analytics, reports you're digging into, or kind of looking at the talent on paper and saying like they should be this, they should be, that. It like this kind of it moves past all this stuff, and it's just kind of that instinctual momentum and that instinctual confidence that you're going to have as a team, or even as just a fan of this game, kind of understanding like this team's hobbled and they're coming in, just not looking themselves like this is gonna probably end up not boding well for them. I mean, to be embarrassed by the New York Giants in a must-win game, they could have locked up the 2 seed right there. I mean, it's huge, and they were just completely walked off the field. I mean, losing against the Cardinals at home, I mean, that shouldn't happen to a team that's at the very top of the standings. And they were, I mean, for most of the year, they were undefeated or they were, in that one seed for pretty much all of the first half. And it just has come crashing down for them. For the Bucks, it's like, I don't even love this team. I don't get out of my, I don't jump out of my chair thinking like, yeah, this team's got, some edge, or this team has, potential to make a little bit of a run in this playoffs. I just kind of look at it as, Philly is so battered and they just look so, kind of brittle coming in that, whoever's lining up against them has a great shot. And, I give Baker Mayfield a lot of credit for the year he's had. I mean, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, completely, putting himself back up there as somebody that maybe a franchise could trust as a starter. Can he do it again next year for Tampa? Like, it's possible. He might have a Geno Smith type of kind of year two after the big year here, but to be ninth in passing after kind of being tossed around the league and kind of blowing his top opportunity out of the gate with Cleveland, it's nice to see when a veteran can get him back, get himself back into a place of being an effective player, or just somebody that folks are wanting to trust. So I mean, that's a huge perk, I think, for Tampa. I mean, the last half of the year they had some pretty big wins, I'd say. I mean, just knocking out Atlanta, Green Bay and Jacksonville, they got some wins there too. I mean, they are capable of beating playoff teams. It's not like they're beating up on the Carolinas and others, at the bottom of the standings here. So Tampa, has the ability to play against better teams and come out with W's. But for me, this is just, it puts Philly in the spotlight of like, man, what the hell is going on there? Could we see a potential Nick Sirianni firing? I'm sure they might clean house with the coordinators if they go out in the first round here, but I'm completely with you. I think this will be a good competitive game, but yeah, man, I've got Tampa at home, taking care of business.
I mean, talk about just like a complete 180 of a team. And, if they didn't have as good of a start as they did, they very much so. It feels like kind of like the Jaguars, but yeah, they just had a better start than the Jaguars. And, obviously, I think, yeah, to your point, I think Jalen Hurts probably, yeah, is playing hurt. He definitely has looked like he's been playing hurt. And similar to, I think, Trevor Lawrence, who's been playing hurt and just has not played well. And I think that really is the detriment to their teams and their records here. And then we kind of compare that and contrast that with kind of what's happened with some of these teams that are just getting hot with their second string quarterbacks, or like Joe Flacco with the Browns. It definitely goes to show, like, hey, it's nice to have that relief kind of quarterback in a way. It is nice to have a second string quarterback, kind of like how Jake Browning, he was able to kind of relieve Joe Burrow a little bit there. So, but yeah, a lot of things. It'd be interesting, to see if Sirianni gets more pressure maybe on next season. Like, it's tough to say like how you evaluate the situation, but it really just goes to show like the coordinators that the Eagles lost this past offseason was detrimental, with Gannon going to the Cardinals there. The defense just looks awful now without him. So he definitely was instrumental in terms of implementing strategy and making game time adjustments and just working with that defense, because that defense was dominant. And this season they just have lost that dominance there, with a couple of changes here and there, but it's like they still have a lot of their staples. So and then Shane Steichen too on the offensive side, like the offense looks like they've taken a step back too, regressed a little bit there too as well. So yeah, just a lot of things that are just kind of going on a downward spiral, I think, for the Eagles. But any given Sunday or Saturday, in this case in the NFL. But yeah, I think we're both just thinking, man, this Bucks team, they don't look that great too, but man, that Eagles team looks pretty bad right now. So
Yeah, and going on coordinators, who was their defensive coordinators start off the year? It was none other than Sean Desai, former Chicago Bear, DC, who had his duties stripped from him and given over to Matt Patricia. So it's just like, yeah, man, if you're plucking from the Bears tree, like, hey, that's number one problem you got right there. Patricia, I don't know. Maybe he's able to cobble together something for Tampa. Could I see the Eagles winning this game? Like, yeah, they should be winning this football
Yeah.
game. Like, 100% they should be winning. But yeah, it's just if I had to place a bet or go with my gut, it's Tampa. Just to do what they have to do at home to get to the next round. Um, but I think either of these teams just feel like they're lame ducks moving into the round to follow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, whoever goes against either the Eagles or the Bucks, they're like, "Oh, that's not so bad. I think we could take them, right?" So yeah, both teams are just kind of lumbering in there, and yeah, hoping for the best there. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see how the Eagles. Like, I think a lot of people this off season there was a lot of hype. I think for the Eagles, and then now, yeah, like after this later half of the season, just such a disappointment. I think right now, but all can be redeemed in this playoffs. We'll see what kind of happens here, but yeah, just not the best feels I think going into the playoffs right now.
No doubt. So with that, those are the first round matchups for the NFL coming up this weekend. Folks, tune in. Have a great time watching those. If you've enjoyed our coverage here, give us a subscribe, a like, leave us a comment, or a review wherever you may be, listening. And we'll catch you next week. We're going to go over the next round of the playoffs after everything plays out, and maybe put some predictions down for who may be the champion this year. So stick with us here at the Ball and Breakfast podcast. And as always, with Wayne, I'm Patrick, signing off.